Hey everyone, my name is Rich, and this is Rich Talks Records, and this is the 100 subscriber special. Dun 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 dun. So welcome, and hopefully this is going to be a fun video, and yeah, with lots of surprises and the 100 subscriber special giveaway contest. So we'll get to that towards the end of the video. So this will be, I thought I would sort of do this in 3 parts, because of course I do, because all the structures of all of these things are convoluted with me. It's sort of what I do. So, but you already know that. So anyway, I thought I would briefly touch on why I started doing this. And that was, well, first of all, the first video I made, so I recently had the 1 year anniversary. So the 1 year anniversary neatly coincided with hitting the milestone of we now have over 100 subscribers, which is pretty incredible. And I had hemmed and hawed about it for years, and I thought, so there are sort of 3 big influences that I had. And the first person where I thought I should create a channel and do record reviews was Giggins. And so anybody who's familiar, and Giggins has been around a long time, and so anybody who's familiar with Giggins' channel, he mostly does Beach Boys, but he throws in a lot of really interesting curveballs, and he has very eclectic tastes. And I liked Giggins' vibe. He was kind of the opposite of the snarky pitchfork thing, and just really coming at it from a real music lover's perspective. And I found that really, really refreshing, and he really knew his stuff. So Giggins was sort of like a primary influence. But again, if you've watched other videos of mine, there was a lot that went on in the middle 2010s, and there was just no way I was going to start a YouTube channel in the middle of all of that. So I really, like I said, I hemmed and hawed about it for a long time. And then at some point during the pandemic, or I don't know if it was before the pandemic, I discovered Bill's Box of Sound. Bill Camerata, who's, I think, like, very known, from what I can see, he's very known and beloved within the vinyl community, and he does a lot of like Zappa related stuff, but again, super eclectic tastes, and his Zappa videos are amazing. But his Residence video, there was a lot that went on during the pandemic and sort of immediately after the pandemic, and a lot of job stuff and whatever. And Bill did a Residence video that I don't know how many times I watched that Residence video, like at night. Like, I just would, I would have it on in the background, and it was, I'd go to bed early, wake up around 3 in the morning, and stay up for an hour or so. And that Residence video was my go-to for ages. So, he was another one, like, really, again, coming from a music lover's perspective, in depth. And I always thought, if I started a channel, I would kind of want it to be like this, and here's what I would do. So he was an important step, and then of course the big one, who I think I started watching around 2021, I want to say. The big one, of course, is, and I've mentioned him 100 times, and he's a subscriber and a frequent commenter, and it's hugely appreciated. But the big one, of course, was Eddie Canistracci. Like I've often said, I think the single best channel on YouTube. When I say that he was influenced, not in a sense where I looked at it and I thought, oh, I could do that, more just his vibe, his sense of humor, again, depth of knowledge, and just kind of, just the the overall sense of doing it for the right reasons. And, you know, one of his catchphrases is, you know, do it for the culture. Do it for the culture. That was really, really important to me. So it wasn't so much that I watched his videos and thought, oh, I can do that. It was more, it made me excited to want to try. And I thought, you know, like, and again, sort of his vibe and his approach. Again, I started to sort of think, you know, if I was going to do something like this, I think here's how I would try to do it. I don't think my videos are really on the level of any of those guys, but those were sort of my big primary influences, and a huge thank you to all of them. I've interacted with Giggins a little here and there over the years. Edwin and I have like actually become friends. It's a pretty cool, like, sort of heartwarming story. And Bill, I've never Bill Camarata has zero idea that I exist whatsoever. I'm just a fan. So anyway, so I sort of, and I should say the first video I did, the Lou Reed video, which is still my biggest video, that video is the only time I've ever, I don't really like this phrase, but I'll use it, is the only time I've ever raw dogged a video. I didn't listen to anything. I literally just grabbed those records off the shelf and went and grabbed the VHSs off of one of the back shelves and just ran through that. There were no edits. That was just straight through. I didn't think about what I wanted to say. It's the only time I've ever done that. I've done a few one takes here and there, but that was, you know, normally there's a lot of listening and re-listening and notes and whatever that I do. And that one Lou Reed video was just totally off the top. In fact, there's a part it's also the only video I've never watched back. But I remember pausing for a second, just trying to decide if I should do a track by track. And I remember thinking I wasn't sure of what to do next in the video. And in that moment, I thought, well, Edwin does a track by track. I guess I should too. So in that very moment, so the whole reason there's the anal retentive track by tracks was a split moment, like in the heat of the moment, split-second decision that I made while filming that video. And after that, I was like, well, I guess that's the format. I guess that's what I do. So that was a funny moment. So, and that's the only time I've ever done a video like that. And who knows if I'll ever do another one like that? I don't know, because I do like the process. And from what I can tell, from the comments and things, you guys seem to appreciate the in-depthness, so I don't see reason to change that. Though I could probably churn them out pretty quick if I did just go off the top of my head and didn't look anything up or confirm dates or anything like that. But I have gotten sort of really anal retentive with this idea that if I'm going to say it on camera and if I'm going to put it up on YouTube, I want to try to be as right as possible, you know. And that was one of my rules that I try to stick to. Another is I really try to not assign intention to things if I don't know what the intention was. So I really try not to do things like, oh, well, they went and recorded here because they were trying to save money. Like, if I don't know that they were trying to save money, I don't say that they were. Like, I really do try to avoid that. And then the biggest one, the number one is from the Z Channel documentary, one of my favorite documentaries ever, and the critic FX Feeney, where he talked about in that when he was writing reviews for the Z Channel magazine, saying that he tried to understand the work on its own terms, and he tried to come from a place of understanding what the movie was, no matter what it was. And that's also where I try. That's like the number one ultimate sort of golden rule. I try to understand the music for what it is and what it is trying to do purely on its own terms. That's always what I am aiming for. And sometimes my personal tastes can't help but override that. And I guess that sort of neatly gets into what I thought would be a fun part of the next part of this video. And that is, I was going to do like 10 favorite records, and then I thought, no, it's 100 subscribers, it's the 100 subscriber special, dun, 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 dun. And I thought I should do 100 records. And my wife immediately was like, babe, don't do that, don't do 100. She's like, can you try to keep it to 10? And I said, I will give it a shot. So I grabbed a piece of mail and I really worked on this list. As you can tell, I spent halves of minutes trying to write this list quickly, and I wound up with 20 something. So I think I then rounded it up to just 25. So I thought it would be a fun thing to do, maybe an interesting thing to do, and these are by and large artists I haven't talked about yet. Some I have, but I tried to avoid records that I have already done videos about, so like there's no Black Flag, for instance. But I tried to avoid having too many albums by one person, because at one point I grabbed 4 Bob Dylan albums and thought, all of these have to be in here. And I just tried to grab records that, what I wound up kind of defaulting to were records that were formative listening experiences for me, and just really important at different stages of my life, that records I just listened to a hell of a lot and just kind of keyed into and obsessed over. So, but again, most of these are people I haven't talked about yet, and most of these bands or artists I will at some point do videos about. So this could be maybe a fun indication of things to come at some point in the future. So anyway, so these aren't in any kind of order, there's no order to any of this. So I just literally, using my thoroughly researched and well thought out list here, I just started grabbing things off the shelf. And I'll just do like a sentence or so of about each, okay? So the first up, it literally could have been any number of albums. I mean, Jesus Christ. But first up, America Eats Its Young by Funkadelic from 1972, the double album. Someday there will be... I'm very surprised that I've had the channel now for a year and I haven't done P-Funk reviews yet, because they're a big deal for me. But at some point, somewhere down the line, there shall be P-Funk videos. God knows. It'll probably turn into a P-Funk channel for a while. But this is one of my favorite albums ever made. I could have picked Funkadelic versus the Placebo Syndrome. I could have picked Motor Booty Affair. I could have picked Free Your Mind and Your Ass Will Follow. On and on and on. Hell, I could have picked the Electric Spanking of War Babies for that matter. But I love this album. It's very near and dear to my heart, and it got me through a particular philosophical and political malaise that I found myself in going from 17 to 18. And so this is always a very important album for me for that. So speaking of also that time in my life, it certainly wasn't the first Dylan album I got. It would have been the first of the acoustic albums that I got, though, and that's 1964's Another Side of Bob Dylan. I have no idea how many times I've listened to this in my life. I have no idea how many times I have sung along with literally every single word, start to finish. This is one of the albums that I have played like the most in my life, and I absolutely adore this thing. It was, of course, recorded all in one night, and yeah, again, hugely important, and also helped me out of an ideological, philosophical, spiritual, personal malaise, a quagmire, if you will, that I found myself in. And this was a North Star for me. So this is just a massively important album. But then again, I could have picked any number of Dylan albums. I don't know that it's really come through from the videos I've made thus far, but I am a very, very, very big Dylan person, like huge Dylan fan. I have a lot of bootlegs. I want to say I have everything that's been officially released. He's very, very important in my life. I've seen him live. I want to say I've seen him live more than anybody else. So yeah, he's a big deal. For myself and for a lot of people. An album that was very important for me in the 2000s, hugely important for me in the especially in the later 2000s. And again, kind of a spiritually important album for me. One of my favorite bands of all time. And I was originally going to do a whole bunch of videos about these guys after Black Flag, and I sort of lost my nerve, and so there will be videos by them eventually, because there's going to be a lot, because I want to kind of cover everything. So at some point I will dedicate a hell of a lot of time to them. The reason I didn't actually was I couldn't find my copy of their second album, and I have since found it. But the second album was nowhere to be found. And I was looking all over the damn place for it. Eventually I found it. But at any rate, The Byrds from 1968, the Notorious Byrd Brothers. This is an absolute masterpiece. I believe it's Roger McGuinn's favorite Byrds album. And it's about as good as music gets, I think. And again, hugely important. This was an album I made a tape of for the car, and I would, there was, I think it would have been the summer of 2007, I would extend my drives from work home and just listen to this again and again and again as I wound around the back roads of where I live. This is going further back. I would have gotten this in... I would have been, I think, 16 when I got this. And it's an album that has meant a great deal to me. I don't listen to it that often, but it's one of those albums that when I do listen to it, it's like listening to it 40 times, because it's just hugely important and it contains so many ideas. And that's Miles Davis's 1974 double album masterpiece, Get Up With It. This is a vinyl version I got. The original version that I had was a Japanese CD import that an uncle would got for me as a Christmas present. So that would have been I guess that would have been Christmas of '93. I guess, maybe, now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah. Again, hugely important, hugely influential in my life, and led to a lot of listening to many, many other kinds of music. So yeah. While we're on a double album kick, I got this senior year of high school. This is not the version this is a vinyl rebuy. I still have the original CD. There will be videos about these guys, and maybe sooner rather than later, because while there are a lot of videos about this particular album, there are not videos about the rest of their albums, and nobody sort of talks about them the way that I want to hear them talked about. So I've been kind of poking around, figuring out how exactly I want to make a video about this. But again, a very, very important album in my life. The Minutemen's Double Nickels on the Dime. This is like their masterpiece. This is like the critics' favorite. Like this is the one that everybody dotes on. Like I said, this is a vinyl. I purchased this at some point on vinyl. But this was, again, sort of politically, ideologically, spiritually, this was just but also emotionally and tonally a hugely important album. And the Minutemen and their entire ethos and their openness and expressiveness has been like hugely, hugely important in my life. Let's do some CDs, shall we? Because I have 4 here. The first one, I've been going through a little Ruthless Records phase recently, and that bled into the most recent Public Image Limited video. But this is an album I don't know how many times I've listened to. I don't know how many times I bought a copy of this for people so they could listen to it back in the pre-streaming days. An album that I have at times been utterly, absolutely obsessed with. Ice Cube's 1991 Death Certificate. Again, massively important and significant to me. I don't necessarily agree with everything on it. There's lots of stuff I disagree with, but as I've talked about elsewhere on the channel, I don't understand what the point, why everyone has to agree on everything, and I'm not terribly interested in unanimity, and I don't think unanimity breeds for a very healthy culture, artistic arts culture or otherwise. So yeah, so someday there shall be Ice Cube videos. And speaking of LA, rap music from LA from the early 90s, just as important, Ice-T's 1991 original Gangster. I still have my cassette copy. At some point I bought this on CD. My dear friend Keith would come and stay over where I am in the summers, but he lived the rest of the year in Sacramento. He listened primarily to rap music, and I remember the day that I bought Morrison Hotel. He bought this. We went to a record store together. We were buying cassettes, obviously. So I got Morrison Hotel and he got this. And I remember I would play Morrison Hotel and he would play this. And I remember thinking that it was these sort of two portraits of the underbelly of Los Angeles 20 years apart, and all that had changed in those 2 decades. And I remember kind of thinking about that back then, and I eventually got my own copy of it and became completely obsessed with it. Every single song on here is basically perfect. It's one of the most well-written albums like ever made. And I absolutely love it. And someday there shall be Ice-T videos. Ta-da! A band that I have referenced any number of times. And I would have to say probably my wife was... So my wife pokes fun sometimes because she says that I will say, oh, that's one of the greatest movies or one of the greatest songs or one of the greatest whatever ever made. And when she first met me, she thought that every time I said that meant it was like in my own top 10 or something. And then after hundreds of times of hearing me say that, she started not, she would sort of poke fun like, how many all-time favorites do you have? And it just started turning into sort of like just an ongoing thing. I'm like, well, I'm a lover of things. But she was very taken aback a couple of years ago when I just sort of declared outright that this was my favorite band ever, because she thought it would be impossible for me to have a single favorite band, but I do. And that's, of course, the Beatles. And the crowning achievement, my favorite album by my favorite band, is the White Album. I mean, like, so yeah, I mean, it's the White Album. Do I need to say more? Someday, maybe I will do Beatles videos. I really don't know. They're pretty talked about, and a lot of the stuff that I thought I knew about them that was sort of arcane and interesting really is just public knowledge or common knowledge. So I don't really know how I would talk about them, unless maybe I just would only talk about them personally. But the White Album is such a crowning achievement, and it's maybe my favorite album ever made by anyone. It probably is just my favorite album of all time, because I can never think of anything that I love more than that one. So yeah. Though. Well, you know what? We will hold off on that. One of the great Dark Night of the Soul albums, and an album that in my early 20s meant a whole hell of a lot to me, and another one that I have bought for people like as gifts, because just in my sense of, you need to hear this or this will help you in your life. And I have owned, I don't know how many copies I've owned of this. I think 4 or 5, and that's Lou Reed's 1979 album, The Bells. There will be Lou Reed videos coming this year, so don't you worry. And I'll be covering the Everyman Band era. So at some point after Pill, I have a backlog of videos, but I will be doing this era. So this and Street Hassle and well, just the Everyman Band era. So there's a lot of great bootlegs from this time, and just a lot of interesting writing that Reed did. So yeah, I mean, this is truly like one of the great Dark Night of the Soul albums. It gets you through. It means a whole hell of a lot to me. Another album that is epic late night listening, and another one of my favorite albums ever made by one of my favorite bands, and that is Flippers. Is it 83 or 84? I forget. Gone Fishin', their second studio album. One of my favorite things ever recorded. I don't. This is another one I have lived inside of. And I really, really got into this in my early 30s, and it has just stayed with me ever since. I don't know how many times I've listened to this, and this is another one that I've been through umpteen, like, first it was a download, then it was, so I have it on CD. I have, I had it on vinyl first. I tried, it was one of the only times I tried pulling vinyl onto a CDR, and it sounded awful because the CDs didn't exist. They were just, for a long time, Flippers stuff was just out of print, and so but yeah, this album is massively important to me. And this I am Facebook friends with two members of Flipper, and Ted Falcone, the guitar player, the guitar playing genius of the band, wishes me happy birthday every year. And a couple of years I thanked him for writing the music to the final song on the album, One by One, one of my favorite songs ever recorded by anybody. And I think it sort of embarrasses him because he never responds to that part. but yeah. Probably it just, this is the single greatest rock and roll album ever made. I always think that the best rock and roll ever made, I'm talking just pure rock and roll, is Little Richard when he was on Specialty Records. I always think that that's the ultimate pure distilled essence of rock and roll. But the greatest rock and roll album ever made, again, pure distilled essence, is Funhouse. So this is I have many copies. I have the Funhouse Sessions. Obviously, I'm an Iggy Pop fan. I've done, this is the Sundazed reissue. I've done Iggy videos, and there shall be more to come. I'll spoil another thing. The next Iggy video, I'm probably going to cover the American Caesar era. So again, after we post-pill and deal with some of the backlog, I'm gonna try and cover the American Caesar album, because not only is it a long album, but there's like about an album's worth of B-sides and songs on compilations from that era. That album could have been even longer, and I always think it was the masterpiece that should have been, that perhaps wasn't, and I think it would be kind of interesting to go through the what ifs of that album. We'll do another CD. People say, oh, I wore that album out. I actually did eventually destroy the cassette of this. It's an album. This is like probably in my top 3 or 4 favorite albums ever made. I think it is as perfect as music gets. And at this point, I'm totally okay with it. Like, I am resigned to the fact that I just don't think that I'm gonna like anything as much as I like this. And that is Public Enemy's 1990, the third album, of course, Fear of a Black Planet. So the cassette of this, the one that had the big paper insert that was like that thick, that like folded out and had all the lyrics, that cassette I actually did break. I had a glider that I had in my bedroom, because I don't know if you noticed, but I rock back and forth a lot. So when I listen to music, I like to sit in a rocking chair, or I had this glider, and the glider had wooden arms, and I actually dug divots into the wood with my fingernails, listening to this album. I would listen to it so hard that eventually I dug divots into the wood. Like the what do you call it? Not primer, the polish that's on wood, like that was all. It was just like the raw wood. Someday there will probably be Public Enemy videos. They are a great obsession of mine, and this is an album. This is just a group that I have thought inordinately hell of a lot of time, or spend an inordinately massive amount of time thinking about and contemplating. Yes, again, massively, massively important, and about as perfect as music gets, I think. Another one that another album that I spent a hell of a lot of time listening to, and again, kind of got me out of. I kind of got me through a bad breakup and kind of a bad period of just sort of trying to figure out what I should do with my life, and was a weird sort of philosophical signpost. It's the second album by the Talking Heads, 1978's More Songs About Buildings and Food. From the album cover, I mean, the album artwork on down, every single note of this is perfect. I love every single song. I love the journey that it takes you on. And I think, given the emotional weight I brought into listening to this, I think that David Byrne's sort of flat, ultra pragmatic, distanced thinking really helped cut through a lot of overthinking and a lot of over-emoting on my part. So weirdly, this album has sort of over the years been like a voice of reason for me, and hugely important. And the guitars on it are fucking amazing. It's one of the greatest guitar albums ever. So this is a band that I have referenced in a hell of a lot of videos. I've brought them up a bunch of times. The second album I ever got with my own money was this band's final album with their original lead singer, and in some ways the final album they ever made, or the last album they ever made with their original lineup. But this is, and they were they were up there in my early listening. They were right up there with the Rolling Stones and Aerosmith as a favorite, and then the Doors, and the Doors were sort of my transition band in a way. But these guys, I had a bunch of their albums, and I deeply loved their albums. And the last of the original 6 was their third album, and I did not like it. And someday someday soon, actually, I do want to do this. I'm gonna review this, and I'll sort of tell the tale. But I can say here that literally all music nearly all music I got interested in after this can be traced back to my love of this album and my ability to understand this album, because it really left me flat for several weeks, and I kept playing it trying to figure out why I didn't love it more, because I loved their other stuff so much, and it was so immediate. But truly, everything from Ravi Shankar to Archie Shepp to Lightning Bolt to all to the Stooges, all sorts of stuff comes back to my ability to understand this album. And it is 1980s Women and Children First by Van Halen. This is one of the most important albums of my life. It's one of the most perfect albums ever made. I put this up there against anything. There will be a video coming from about them soon. I've been intimidated to do a video about Van Halen simply because, speaking of Edwin Canestracci, he did a video on not just Van Halen but also David Lee Roth's solo stuff that are two of the finest. Like, he really gets Van Halen, and there's part of me that sort of thought, well, what the hell can I add after, like, what am I gonna say? So kind of the same thing with the Paul Di'Anno Killers era Iron Maiden. Like, what do I add after he did his? Like, but yeah, this is just a hugely important part of my listening. And it still sounds perfect. It's still as good as a rock album can ever possibly be. another album that I have listened to a whole hell of a lot, and another album that was a way forward for me and a direction of where I should aim my energies and my thoughts and my feelings. Was REM's 1985's Fables of the Reconstruction. Maybe they made other albums that are better. They made other albums that are perfect masterpieces, but this is the one that is the closest to me and the one that I have kind of obsessed over the most. The sort of portrait of Little America, if you will, I think is always deeply moving and deeply important. And yeah, so this is another one. This was a perfect album to be into as I got deeper into adulthood, we'll put it that way. So it's a how you go forward and how you live sort of album. Another one like that, and this came out in I think 2001, but I purchased it in '02, and that is Advisory Committee by Mira. Mira, this was, of course, produced by Phil Elverum, the microphones, but this is I think, one of the greatest albums of songs. I think this is just such a perfectly realized songwriterly album, and then Phil Elverum's production just takes it to another place. But her singing, her ideas, and her articulation of those ideas is just something that truly this album has never failed to move me every single time I've ever listened to it. So again, hugely, hugely important. Mira, I think, never got the recognition that she deserves, because I think that she's absolutely brilliant. Another big time favorite, Richard P. Havens' 1983. I've talked about Richie Havens before. There will be a video about this one. It will happen. Damn it. I have nearly made a video a number of times about this album, and then I've backed off for one reason or another. But this will happen. This is an incredible album. And another one, this is another, for lack of a better way of putting it, adult album. This is another album of figuring it out and putting it together. So and how to get a way forward in life. So hugely, hugely important. This is, so I did my 3-part series of Rolling Stones videos, but of all those albums, and I love them deeply, there's one that was one of the first ones I got by them, and truly I obsessed over in high school to to an obsessive degree. We'll phrase it that way, I guess. And I don't know how many times I've listened to this, and I don't know how many hours of my life I have spent thinking about this album and seeking out other music that sounds like this, but never really is, because this is such a lightning in a bottle, absolutely perfect album. And it's the last one that Brian is on, and that, of course, is 1968's Beggar's Banquet. Again, about as good as music gets. I don't know that it gets better. Eventually, this is a well-covered era of the Rolling Stones. Eventually, I have to imagine that I will talk about that, the big four. But suffice to say, that album has loomed large in my life. And I'll say this here. My favorite song, Jigsaw Puzzle. Okay? Jigsaw Puzzle. This is an important album. I've been talking about these albums in heavy, deep ways, but this is one of my favorite albums purely for the absolute joy and excitement, and talk about lightning in a bottle. Just a kinetic band, just excited and filled with joie de vivre, and lust for life and other things, and it's an absolute encapsulation of everything I love about rock and roll, and just pure sheer excitement and energy and joy and beauty and wonder, and really, really, really important to me. And that is the Rondelles. I want to say this is 1998's Fiction, Romance, Fast Machines. Again, there probably will be a Rondelles video someday, but I don't really know their story all that well. I follow a couple of the former members on Instagram, so I don't know, maybe I should hit them up. Maybe I should like network or something. I don't know. But this is truly like one perfect song after another, and it is just, I think they were in high school when they made this. This is just a guileless, hilarious, perfect work of art. I love it. And now we are getting into, we're getting, I could have picked any number of albums by this guy. Like truly, I could have gone to whatever stage. First album I ever got with my own money was Purple Rain as a 6-year-old, allowance money that I'd saved up. I didn't buy Transformers with it. I chose to get Purple Rain instead. This is an album that I discovered as later on. I knew the singles off of it, obviously, but I really rediscovered as a teenager. I could have picked any number of his albums, just like with Dylan. But I'm going with this one, 1982's 1999. A perfect album, a deeply meaningful album, and an album that for me, again, connected all of this other music that I loved, and just the spirit, again, the spirit of openness and expressiveness is just hugely important, and wonderful sense of humor. It has everything. It truly has everything. And I have listened to it. God knows how many times I've listened to it. And on family trips up to Wisconsin, when we would take before the what was it, the interstate? I don't know what the road is, but whatever. Let's say the interstate, before it was built, it was an 8-hour drive to where we would go. And this being a long album, was perfect to listen to. And there was something strangely like listening to DMSR over like the sort of light rolling hills actually weirdly made sense. So I'm a very big Prince fan. I've referenced him before. I don't know that I hem and haw about making Prince videos, because at this point there's so much knowledge about him and there are so many Prince channels that I just feel like I would just be sort of doing compilations of stuff that other people have covered. I don't know. Maybe I will. It's hard to know because there's still so much that's left in the vaults, blah, blah, blah. So who knows? I might as well get to this. As important as Van Halen's Women and Children First was, this went even a level beyond that. It, at various times, I have said, is my favorite album of all time by anybody. It's certainly up there. It's permanently lodged up there. Again, it's as perfect as an album can get, and incredibly deeply meaningful and spiritually and psychologically transformative. Forever. There's a before and after in my life forever with this album, and that's 1967's Strange Days by the Doors. This is the other tape that actually broke. I listened to it so much. At one point I estimated that I had probably listened to it nightly for about roughly let's say a 15-month stretch period. I actually worked it out one time how often I had listened to this. Someday I will talk about this, and at some point I will do the Doors, because I think there's enough. I think I can take them from an interesting angle, I dare say. But even though they're one of the most kind of beloved classic rock bands, but and I've certainly talked about the Doors enough and other artists on the Elektra on the Elektra roster, right? So, but that album, I mean, that's the one. That's the one. And we might as well, now we're sort of getting down to it. Is it my favorite album by my single favorite recording artist ever? Maybe. But again, another one that has loomed hugely large, and I've obsessed over all the bootlegs. I made a video just about bootlegs of this person. I could have picked any number of albums, but we'll go with the jewel in the crown, obviously 1970s Plastic Ono Band by John Lennon. Does it get more perfect? Does it get better? I don't think it does. This is my original vinyl copy that has the apparently this is the lyric sheet that's in the insert that's very obscure and record collector-y. This is just simply what I bought as a teenager in 1992, and I have scotch taped the bottom because it was falling apart. So this is my copy. This shall stay with me forever. I love it. And then we get to the big one, another one that I have often, you know, so there's the White Album, there's Strange Days, there's Fear of a Black Planet, and then there's this one. And those are sort of the round robin of my favorite album of all time. This is another one that is kind of one step beyond Women and Children First. This is like the Big Bang. And again, I don't know that I've heard anything since, in terms of new music, that has meant anywhere near as much to me. And I'm okay with that now. I chased it for years and years and years. But I stopped chasing, and now I can just purely enjoy it and revel in it. And I'm at peace with my love of it and my love of where it stands in the grand scheme of things. Enough time had to pass for me to be able to see it from a distance and go through a lot of phases with it. But my love of it has never dimmed, and it has always been a hypnotic, perfect work of art, one of the ultimate works of art. And someday I shall make a video about this. I've joked about it with my wife, what the conditions would have to be in order for me to make this video. But someday I will make it, and it's gonna be a motherfucker. It's going to be my ultimate video. Maybe it'll be maybe I won't even make videos after this one. But it is. This is it. 1990s, Ritual de lo Habitual by Jane's Addiction. This is the album. This is my album. This album is in my fucking DNA. I lived this album. I have lived inside this album. This is it. This is the one. This is it. Yeah. I love this thing. I don't know. I'll talk about it in depth more at some point. And then we might as well just end with the video that's coming next, because you knew it was in here. However you want to slice or dice it. Pill's Metal Box or Second Edition from 1979. I'm still not going to open this. We're going to wait for the video for that. In fact, it's going right back up on the shelf right now. That's right. That's how much we're not touching that one. So it's Pill, it's Metal Box. I'll be talking about it next weekend. So get ready. And that is a run through of some of my absolute favorite albums, and probably a good indicator of a lot of my tastes without having gotten into stuff that I've already talked about in other videos. And now we're going to get to the giveaway contest, the special. This is what you've been waiting for. This is what you came here for. That's right. So the 100 subscriber special. You have all given me so much, so now I am going to give back to you. So here it is. The 100 subscriber special is in the comments section, okay? In the comments section. I will leave it up to you. First of all, you have to leave a comment. You can either give a list of your favorites, your favorite albums, or you can write 100 words, because it's the 100 subscriber special, about why I'm the bestest YouTuber you've ever seen. Probably won't get too many of those. Or whatever, or it could be, we'll leave it pretty loose, but we'll keep it to those maybe two categories, okay? And I will, I will have a judging, an independent blue ribbon committee judge which comment is the best, or I will just get a AI bot to choose the favorite comment. Either way, it's going to be scientific. But the winner will get this. That's right. You know my videos. You know how much I love the Fugs. This is a sealed, look at that, sealed copy of the Don't Stop box set. So what do we got on this thing? We've got the first album. We've got all the bonus tracks. We've got the second album. Is that right? No? My eyesight's bad. We got the second album. We've got all the bonus tracks. We've got lots and lots of live stuff. We've got even more live stuff. We've got at Sanders Home Demos, we've got more Thule Kupferberg composing tapes from home. This is a sealed copy. My dearly departed beloved father bought this for me. My dad never really, back when I used to make an Amazon gift list at Christmas time, back in those not really that good old days, my father never really could work out how to navigate the Amazon gift list, and he somehow purchased 2 copies, and I'm such a lazy fucking bastard that this has sat since, what year did this come out? I don't even know. Suffice to say, this came out in 2008. So I think this would have been maybe Christmas of '09. So I am such a lazy bastard that I have had a sealed second copy of this box set this entire time and have never done anything with it. And it can be yours. So, pill video, I will announce at the end of that video, it's going to be long, I will announce the winner. So this could be yours, and you could revel in the splendor of the early Fugs. Who wouldn't want this? Huh? So, and then we will work out from there. How I can get that to you. So, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And now just the final part of this, I just would like to give some shout outs. The first would be to the great Van Ark. You know, huge supporter, a very, very, very dear friend. I've known Van for a long time. So, you know, thank you, Van, for all of your support and your friendship. And Van, I'll put a link to his Bandcamp page. Van is a very prolific and hugely talented recording artist, and you should totally check out his stuff. Talk about eclectic. Van's as eclectic as it gets. Al King, great musician, hit me up on Facebook when I do more Iggy videos, and additionally like talk about like the band Destroy All Monsters and like the Sonic Rendezvous band and all that sort of stuff. I'll be hitting him up more, but he gave me some really, really cool information. He's a great musician. Al King, really, really good guy. Thank you for everything, Al. And one of my most prolific commenters, Shannon Townsend, I will get to crash someday after the backlog. Just be patient with me. So, but again, always leaves really cool comments. Really, you know, Shannon really knows, like, you know, is like really smart and the kind of commenter that I was hoping that I would get, as opposed to some guy saying, you know, you're a fucking shithead. There's the guy who's I'll see if I can pull up an image. There's the German fellow. I think he's German, or he lives in Germany. I don't know what his name is, but he always leaves really thoughtful, interesting comments, and he's commented on a number of my videos. So German fellow, I don't know German. Eisvei, drei Sphere, Das Boot, Deutschland über alles. I got nothing. I don't speak German, but thank you. Guten Tag. I don't have a wooden heart. Guten Tag. And that's all I got for German. And I'm trying to think of who else. There's the fellow whose, again, name escapes me, who plays my videos at night. Or I don't know if at night, but like when he's working, and I think that's the perfect time to play, like leave my stuff playing like in the background. Like, I think that's perfect. So fellow, God bless you. Thank you. And then, of course, I apologize if I'm forgetting anybody. And then, obviously, again, we'll bring him up again. Edwin Canistracci, like, he shares my stuff. He's fucking awesome. Like, it's hugely appreciated. Like, how cool is that? How cool is that your favorite YouTube channel, like the guy with your favorite YouTube channel, winds up being a huge supporter and always comments and leaves really, really, really good comments, the degree to which I think, oh, fuck, now I have to leave a response as good as this comment. So it's always hugely appreciated. Thank you. And thank you to all of you. Like, again, in a TikTok era, and not doing any sort of, hopefully not doing any sort of pandering moves, and not playing weird angles or games, or playing sort of weird politics. I've tried to do this in a non-condescending, manner, in an interesting manner, and what I would want to watch, hopefully. So, you know, I think it's really, really cool that that there's that many of you. That is still amazing to me. It's really weird because I now see channels that I'm bigger than, and that's pretty wild to think about, because I'll see certain channels, I'm like, why do I have more subscribers, or why do I get more views than this person? So that's really, really cool. And I always just think of it in terms of people. Like, it's pretty wild to have, like, I couldn't get 100 people in a room if I tried, like in real life, you know? So the idea that there's 100 out there is really, really cool. Oh, another shout out, nearly forgot, because I followed his channel back a while ago, and his stuff is really cool. He does a lot. He does music. I think he only commented once, but I just want to do a shout out in case you're watching. Lupu, fucking Lupu does really cool, wild. Talk about the phrase from the last video, underbellied sprees, like really, really, really cool subterranean music, and really talented, and great sense of humor, but just cool and imaginative. And I don't know, it's exciting. It's nice to connect to all this stuff. And every now and again, if someone follows me publicly, and I can see, I'm every now and again I check out what somebody's subscribed to. Like some of the wild shit that some of you are subscribed to is like, this is awesome. Like this is fucking rad. Like I get some fucking, I mean this in a wonderful way. Like I get some fucking weirdos, and but judging on the comments, some smart weirdos, and it's cool. Like I haven't felt obligated to like turn this into a punk channel, or an indie channel, or a metal channel, or even a rock channel. Like people seem to accept it for what it is, and that's awesome. I love that I can just sort of do as I see fit. So yeah, so again, thank you all. I'm out of here. Public Image Limited in 1979 is coming soon, and I will announce the winner. So get your fingers tippity tapping on those keyboards, because this could be yours. Now, how embarrassing would it be if this gets no fucking comments? That would actually be kind of awesome. And then I just hold on to this goddamn thing forever, or I wheel it out again for the 500 subscriber special. It's never probably going to get that far, but at any rate, I'm going on too long, as I tend to do. So anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, obviously. Thank you for commenting and everything. Really, really awesome. And I will see you soon with Public Image Limited in 1979. So until then, bye.